Hey guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever applies to you. Welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Julia. I'm a contemporary singing specialist based in Australia, and today I am reacting to Arch Enemy for the second time. I know my first Arch Enemy reaction, which was like a first time reaction with Angela as the vocalist, was not too long ago, so I still have it like fresh in my mind how awesome it sounded and how incredible she was. But underneath that video, you guys commented you have to listen to Alissa, who is their new vocalist, and Deceiver Deceiver has come out recently, which is a brand new Arch Enemy song. So I'm very keen to dive on into this, see what their new music sounds like, but also hear what Alissa White-Gluz sounds like. Let's get into it. Do you guys hear that? It's a descending line, but its timbre is different. Is that being done on the bass? How is that sound being musicians? How is that sound being made? Because it sounds really cool. It's almost like it's got a dull sound to it, like as if you were taking like an acoustic bass sound and moving through it. But wow, let me know how that sound's being made. Can you hear what I'm hearing? Maybe. It's a descending line. I'll let you guys know when it starts again. There it is. Da, 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 da. That sounded so low. Those layers were wicked cool. I want to hear that again. Oh, wow. Oh, those accents. That rhythm. Oh, I want to hear it again. Those triplets, man. Oh, why do triplets sound so good? It's like a fairly simple musical idea, but you hit them right and it's like you're suspended in time just for those moments. I think I've used an analogy before of it's like you're walking across a tightrope, and when you land out the other side, there's like that satisfaction that you've like moved your way through the time. Oh, sounds so cool. I want to hear it again, and then I will break down some of the vocals. Okay, on those lows, is that all her? Is it? It's so cool sounding, and I can hear that it sounds like there are layers that have been put into the recording, but I mean, like, are the layers, are they all her? Because if so, that is amazing. It's seriously, it's like, it's demon voice. We've got another person who is stunning, and out comes the demon voice. I think that's amazing. Just a couple of quick notes on sound and vocal production, because I do still have listening to Angela fresh in my head. I mentioned in that video that I was going to use her tone as a reference for what I believed to be the false fold screaming. And that's the only means of comparison that I'm going to use it. I'm not comparing the vocalists themselves, just the timbre that they're making, just as a point of reference for identifying different harsh vocal techniques. So that's why I'm using that as a point of reference. It just so happens that Angela was the previous vocalist for this particular group, but I'm sure that I will use her sound and now perhaps Alissa's sound as well as reference points, because they sound so different, and yet the application and effect is still powerful and amazing. Anyway, so one of the things that I mentioned in Angela's sound, and the reason why I felt like it was leaning more towards the false folds, is because in Fry screaming, or at least my understanding of listening and identifying Fry screaming, it's almost like there's an extra static or like a crackly, like some kind of extra distortion in the sound that I get listening to a Fry screamer compared to a false fold screamer. It's usually popped out as a little more obvious to me in the higher end of things. So that's where I get the most like static, like just an extra element of distortion in it. But one of the things that I'm noticing is that Angela's false fold scream is really powerful, and it's really full, like just across most of her sound. There's this full, powerful, it's very consistent in that manner. And then I'm listening to Alissa, and we're getting some slightly different tonal choices, which makes me think that she's doing things perhaps a little bit differently, either with her pharynx or perhaps with one of the various mucosa that's, flapping around the vocal tract. So case in point, in the beginning, it's almost like there was a little bit of almost like a burpee sound in her singing, and I didn't necessarily get that burpee sound from Angela's false fold. So that's why I'm saying they sound a little bit different to me. So I'm wondering if the technique choice is different as well. Obviously, I may be able to picture this a little bit more once I finish the song, but these are just first impressions on sounds which are a little bit different, at least to my ear. So if we listen to the beginning again. Yeah, so for example, on the open my eyes, it almost sounds like something's either being swallowed, and there's almost like that burpy quality to it. Let's listen to that again. When the timing comes, persecuted flies. Open my eyes, you've been in disguise. And then on disguise, we got this little bit of extra distortion through the sound, which makes me think Fry scream, at least more so than when I was listening to Angela. And again, just using their voices as a point of reference for the sound, not as a comparison between the two vocalists. They're just a frame of reference for me at this point, with also trying to create that understanding in my mind of what certain harsh vocal techniques might sound with their timbre, in the same way that I would recognize a mixed belt from a TA dominant belt. You have to keep listening to different people and sort of build up a catalog of what certain sounds might sound like, and I'm still sort of on that journey. So forgive me if this is a little slow, but let's listen to that again. We get that almost lower burpier quality in the beginning of that, and then as she goes up, there's some extra little distortion in that sound, which makes me think Fry scream. So, I mean, I would still need to keep listening to be able to be like, yes, for sure. But at least on the high stuff, that sounds like Fry scream to me, just because those extra elements of distortion, or at least those are the timbral things that I'm listening for when it's so interesting to describe harsh vocals with timbre, but those are the things that I'm listening for in the sound that help me kind of differentiate between some of these harsh vocals. Another thing, her articulation is amazing. I can understand every single word that she is saying. Maybe I'm just getting used to this style now, but I seriously feel like despite the fact that she's moving between low and all the way up into high and back down again, I'm not losing any of her words, which is amazing. Let's keep going. what is happening? Sound engineers, what is happening in those layers that make that sound feel so encompassing? Is that... I feel like that's got to be like some audio stuff, because I truly feel like that voice is just surrounding me, which is an amazing feeling to be having. Like, I'm just sitting at home with some headphones on, and it feels like this all-encompassing sound. Like, is it something that's happening with the layers there? Is it how they've decided to pan the different sounds? This is amazing. I want to listen to that chorus again. And it's so low as well. Yeah, completely different, like, acoustic power profile compared to when I was listening to Angela live. And I just mean like the acoustic power part. This to me feels more on the, I can hear the extra elements of distortion rather than it just being a complete wall of like acoustic sound just powerfully smashing into the microphone or whatever. There's layers, and there's a little bit more of those variations in texture, what I'm hearing from Alissa. So yeah, this is nuts. Another beautiful badass woman. Damn. Yeah, so I want to go back because that one section sounded particularly burpy. And I don't mean burp as an insult. It's sort of like where you might feel the sound coming from as opposed to it actually sounding like a burp. Probably should have said that earlier. On the I'll give you that, do we hear those extra elements of distortion in that sound? I mean, if Angela was the demonstration for that false fold screaming, because that's what it sounded like in the lows from her, maybe Alissa is the example of Fry screaming on the lower end, because those timbral properties, they are different. And again, just using the references of the sound. Yeah. I know some people can have their favorites when it comes to vocalists changing. We're not here for that. Let's just appreciate all the vocalists that we're listening to. So we're gonna keep it going. But yeah, that one particular section. Whew. I'll give you that. Go on and think about you despicable rats. On the rat as it went up, I just used some vocal fry, which is different to the fry scream. I have learned. I'm trying to keep very open-minded when I'm learning about these things, because harsh vocals, at least in the voice science world, is not as explored as other sounds. So let's keep an open mind, and I will continue my learning. Anyways, let's keep going. Wow. Alrighty. I would love to hear her live. I'm gonna go find me some Alissa White-Gluz videos of her just making noises, because I feel like that would be really intriguing and exciting. Wow. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, that was badass. I got to hear some really interesting noises and so clearly as well. Like there was no ambiguity in the sounds at all that Alissa was making, at least as far as like a timbre profile goes. There was a lot of consistency. She was able to articulate super, super well. Like I thought that was mad. It was so clear, each of her words. And she did a lot of those really cool sliding things where she would move up into that like fry screamy sound. And then, of course, we're dropped into just Demon City. I mean, if we're just using those little distortion things that I mentioned earlier, some of that staticky sound, it sounds, I mean, I'm not sure. For the higher section, I'm a little bit more sure on the fry scream thing. On the lower stuff, I think I'd have to listen to some more. I'm not 100% on the lower stuff. But I mean, that fry scream alone is kind of amazing. So I mentioned earlier there's this like burpy quality to her sound. Now, I don't know if that burpy quality is like specific for a technique or whether it's to do with larynx height or something. I'm still exploring that myself because I'm learning about harsh vocals, but it's definitely there. And to me, it was a little bit more obvious in the singing compared to like the really like full spectrum power constant nature of when I was listening to Angela's particular harsh vocal timbre. So please also bear that in mind. Those highs to me are kind of, they give me more information as to what Alissa may be doing with her voice than the lows right now, just because of where I'm at with learning about these things. So if you happen to know, please let me know in the comments because I'd love to continue learning. As far as the music goes, there were some really cool rhythmic elements. Those triplets, just like they came out of nowhere, or at least to me. A lot of these things they say came out of nowhere. You'd never expect that, and then like half of the metal community is just like, we can tell you're new here. Anyway, really loved those triplets. I thought they were really, really fun. There were some other really cool musical ideas in here, like the descending line in the beginning. I still don't know what created that timbre. It sounds like a timbre that might come from a bass, but people who play these instruments, are probably going to be a lot more accurate at IDing that. All I know is I heard it and it sounded cool, and I enjoyed the things that it contributed to the texture there in the beginning. We have another vocal badass on our hands here. I would really love to hear Alissa live, so if there are any videos you guys recommend, please put them in the comments below. But other than that, I think that's where I'm going to leave this one today. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, click the subscribe button and the bell notification beside it for more just like this one. As usual, I hope you're staying safe. I hope you are staying healthy, and I will see you next time.